Whether you're a first-time mom or a mom of many, there's always something new to learn. The how, when, and why of every new stage can be so overwhelming. So I'm here to share everything I'm learning along the way in my journey of parenthood. I don't have all the answers, and I probably never will. I'm just a mom, probably much like you, who simply wants to do the best I can to raise good, tiny humans. I believe there's joy to be found in every season of motherhood, and the more we know, the better we can help them grow. This is the Learning as They Grow podcast. Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Learning as They Grow. I am your host, Alicia Foster. Today, I'm going to be doing a two-part episode on night weaning. Night weaning is something that we recently went through in our household, so I just think this is going to be a great thing to finally share with others what worked for us. I did a lot of diving into other moms' blogs and podcasts and listening to things, talking to others, and heard a lot of great things that can work for some people, found what worked for us. And I just wanted to share it because when we were going through it, it was a very hard time just knowing what was the right thing to do, how to go about it, all of that. So the part one that I'm going to do today is going to be about what and why. So what is night weaning? If you're new to this and you're just not really sure what it is, I'm going to talk about that. Why somebody might want a night wean is also what I'm going to talk about today. If you already are fully aware of the what and the why, and you just need to know how did you do it? How does this work? Part two episode will be coming up next, and that will go into the whole step-by-step detail of how we did night weaning in our house. So let's start with talking about breastfeeding. This is night weaning. Let me rewind real quick. Night weaning can be for breastfeeding or bottle feeding. For me, we were breastfeeding. So that's going to be where I talk a bit about my personal experience. Of course, if you're bottle feeding, there is nothing wrong with that. And there is absolutely a need for you to, just like me, need that sleep that you might be deprived of at the time when you're just up all night nursing and bottle feeding, whatever it may be. So whatever your situation is, totally cool, totally fine. It can be interchanged, but for my experience, it was breastfeeding. So that's what I'm going to be referring to when I talk about a baby eating. I'm going to just continue to say breastfeeding or nursing just because that was my personal experience. They can be interchangeable. Now, when I get into the how to do it, it is going to be geared more towards breastfeeding solely because there is going to be a difference. It's easier to remove a bottle from a room where if I'm present trying to take care of my daughter and comfort her, I can't remove my breast from the room. That is something that just makes it a bit more difficult, I think, when it comes to night weaning, at least from my experience and from everything I've heard. So the how of night weaning or part two for this is going to be more geared towards if you're breastfeeding. The what and the why, what I'm going to talk about today and part one is going to be for either breastfeeding or bottle feeding. Okay, so let's just talk about breastfeeding and how it really is such a beautiful journey. Like there's so many challenges that might happen along the way. And if you're anything like me, it was a roller coaster ride in the beginning. I definitely struggled. I want to make that clear. Like we now are night weaned at 17 months. I'm continuing to occasionally nurse during the day, and my child is almost 18 months old. But when we were on day 4, I did not think I was going to make it this far. I never even thought I would make it past 6 months. There was a point in time when I was like, just get past 1 month. I'm going to be able to do this. It's going to be okay. We're going to survive. I even thought about exclusively pumping just because I was struggling. I was having a hard time. My daughter had a lip and a tongue tie, made nursing very uncomfortable. If you need to know more about nursing, how we got through some of those struggles, all of that stuff, check out a previous episode, scroll down a bit. I think it might've been episode 2 or 3, and it was about breastfeeding. So check that one out if you're interested. But regardless, to say, I just wanted to share that. Like, I know sometimes night weaning can be seen, especially in a gentle parenting community, that it's not something that maybe is necessary. Let your child nurse. Why, follow their cues. I totally became that parent as we passed those milestones and as nursing became more of a beautiful journey and not such a struggle. In the very beginning, huge struggle. But we got past it. And then it was like 6 months and then 9 months. And then we hit a year. And for me, I knew I was not somebody that wanted to nurse well into toddlerhood. For me, I just wasn't comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with, I'd say maybe past 2 or so. It's just not something that I think would work for me and for my family. That works for many other people. Some people, past a year is just absurd. And that's kind of funny to me now, because I have people like, oh, you're still nursing. And it's like, yeah, she's still a baby. She's still, she's 17 months. She's technically a toddler, but she's still benefiting from these things. And it's just not uncomfortable, or like odd for me and how my emotions work and my connection with my daughter and everything. It doesn't feel odd to me yet. So we're still doing it. But anyways, I definitely, when it hit that 12-month point, thought, okay, I'm going to now just follow her cues. Like, I wanted to make it to the 12-month point once I got past that hard beginning. And I decided I would just follow her cues. I'd heard of a lot of people naturally weaning. That's kind of the route that I wanted to go. I thought, she's got teeth now. She's eating her solids. Like, there's no way she's going to still need this. But it got to the point where she's still wanting it. She was finding that as a big source of comfort. I was nursing on demand and just, using it as needed. And it was so beneficial, and still occasionally is whenever she's sick or whenever she like hurts herself badly. And that is the best way I can comfort her. The sickness is huge for me though. I'm like, I know she's getting good antibodies. I know that no medicine or food source can really compete with what breast milk had to offer. So anyways, needless to say, 12 months, I thought that she might just start naturally weaning. However, that was not the case. Instead, she kind of became more boob obsessed. I joked about it like, oh my goodness. She started using her nursing sign more frequently. And anytime I go to pick her up from a grandparent's house, or in the middle of the night, or just whenever she was feeling it, she would just kind of look at me and like, and make her sign and make this grunting sound. And I'm like, okay. And so I definitely got to the point with that, where I just started feeling an aversion towards it. It started really driving me kind of nuts. I felt like I was not able to just hold my baby and snuggle with my baby and do things with her without her seeing me as one big boob. And so it's important to note that while I am more towards the gentle parenting side of things, it's okay to say breastfeeding is a two-person dance. Like, this is not something that you should feel guilty about. If it's no longer working well for you and you're feeling a type of way that this is just not what I hoped for anymore, and it's bothersome to you, or you're starting to feel discomfort. My little one was co-sleeping with us, and it was working out really well. In the beginning, for her early months, I was able to get better sleep than prior, because I wasn't having to continuously get up with her. That lasted until about 9 months, I think. And co-sleeping was great for us. And with that, I was able to nurse through the night. If she'd wake, just nurse. I'm still half asleep, but she's attached. She's good. Roll her to the other side. And we slept so good. And it worked really well for our family until it didn't. So around 9 months or so, she just got she was very mobile. She started walking at 9 months, and she just did not want to stay still in bed anymore. She seemed to be constantly trying to get comfortable, tossing and turning. And with that came a lot of nursing in the middle of the night. So much so to where, like I said, I started developing that aversion of it, the nursing aversion, and just my boobies needed a break when they were nursing all through the day and through the night now, more frequently than prior. It just got to a point where I was like, something's got to change. So I didn't make night weaning a necessity or something that I needed to do right away. Instead, we just focused on transitioning from co-sleeping to getting her into her room. We felt that that would be helpful. And it definitely was. And so we watched her being able to wake up and calmly put herself back to sleep. On occasion, she would toss and turn, but be a lot more comfortable than being in a bed with my husband and I. So it was working, but she was also waking frequently. Every 3 to 4 hours was still happening past the 9 months, past the 12 months, all the way up into 15 months. She was still waking pretty much like clockwork every 3 to 4 hours, which was very exhausting for me. Months and months of having to get up every 3 to 4 hours, go into her room and nurse and comfort and lay her back down. Just became where, like I said, I just got to a point where I had had kind of enough of the night waking and mama just needed to sleep. And again, that's okay if you're in that same boat as me. I'm definitely proud of saying I did that for 15 plus months because we ended up not fully night weaning until 17 months. So, I mean, I was waking up doing everything that I could do to meet her needs for 17 months. And I'm okay with saying it's time for a change now. I do want to talk now. So that's my story. I just wanted to give that to everybody so that you understand how we came to this decision of night weaning, and how it's okay if you are somebody like me and my husband who is more towards the gentle side of parenting, wanting to meet your kids' needs and their emotional needs too, not just their physical needs of hunger, but their emotional needs too. And if nursing was something that was valuable to you and beautiful and important, and you might, like me, feel that guilt of, oh my goodness, why am I having to take this away from them? But understanding that it is a two-person dance. And if you get to that point where it is just not working well for you anymore, and my baby waking every 3 to 4 hours past the age appropriate time for that, where she was over 12 months, she should be able to sleep more through the night. It clearly wasn't serving her well anymore either. So she was waking up out of habit now rather than out of need. So with all that being said, I will start now talking about what is night weaning, and then why somebody might do it is a little bit like what we just talked about. Okay, so what is night weaning? Simply put, night weaning is getting a baby to stop breastfeeding or bottle feeding through the night. It's a gradual approach, hence the word weaning. It is not something that just stops cold turkey. There are people who do it that way. That is not the way that we wanted to go. That's not what we felt would be best for our family. So we went the gradual approach. With that, gradual takes time, obviously, but it also takes a lot of patience and understanding that it may ebb and flow, just like a lot of things in parenting and in life. Like there may be nights that are easier, and then there may be nights where it's harder. So just being kind of mentally prepared for that. Regarding night weaning, I think it's important to note that a lot of people, if you just search night weaning and when you can start night weaning, a lot of people will say that 4 to 6 months is appropriate age to begin weaning. But if you also look into how often babies need to eat between 4 to 6 months, they're still supposed to be eating every 4 to 6 hours. Sleeping through the night is considered as 6 to 8 hours of a full stretch. So for me, those two things don't add up. If my baby's needing to eat every 4 to 6 hours when she's between 4 to 6 months, let's just say a 4-month-old, let's start there. 4-month-old needs to eat every 4 hours. How are you going to expect that baby to sleep a 6 to 8 hour stretch? That's, to me, not developmentally appropriate. While we might be very tired by that 4-month point and going, oh my gosh, I just need them to sleep. So-and-so down the street, their kid slept through the night. Mine should be able to. Oh, Google says mine should be able to. This other person's pediatrician says they should be able to. Real quick, let me point on that. Make sure you have a trusted pediatrician. I think it's huge that people always say, ask your pediatrician, ask your pediatrician. Yes, ask your pediatrician about stuff, but make sure you have a trusted pediatrician. If your pediatrician pushes things that you're not comfortable with, if your pediatrician pushes things that you're not comfortable with, or kind of brushes off some of the things that you feel innately and just instinctively that are right or wrong for your child, like you kind of want to look at that and ask yourself, is that a trusted pediatrician? At the end of the day, the pediatrician is just a human, a person with their own opinions and their own experiences that they might be pushing onto others too, that you can always find research and stuff to back up, oh, this is the way. But guess what? There's also research and stuff on the other side of things. So make sure that your pediatrician is trusted. If they're telling you that at this age, they should be doing this, and you don't feel like that's right for your child and your family, you might want to find a different pediatrician. All right. So regarding that, babies at 4 months to 6 months should still be eating every 4 to 6 hours. Therefore, I don't find it age appropriate, developmentally appropriate to expect those babies to night wean. If you look at how often a baby should be eating in their first year, how it changes month to month and such, it's not until about 9 months that they should be able to go longer stretches without eating. 6+ hours through the night should be acceptable. And also at that time, during the day, you may have already introduced solids. That's going to be huge. So they may not be taking as much milk, breast milk or formula throughout the day. Instead, they're going to possibly be starting to learn how to fill themselves more with solids. You might introduce those solids around 6 months, but from our experience and everything that I've learned and looked into, it takes a couple months for that to be established, well established, to where they're eating to actually be full and not just eating to, try different textures and taste different foods and stuff like that. So again, when it comes to eating solids, we went the baby-led weaning route where she was eating actual solids, not just purees. We did purees as well. But she was able to, use foods in order to learn how to eat. Anyways, so I have an episode out about baby-led weaning too, if you want to scroll back and check that one out. So anyways, 9+ months is kind of where it's more developmentally appropriate to night wean. Now, like I said, we waited until she was past 12 months just because it was working for us. 9 months, everything was going good. We had no reason to stop nursing. However, after a while of having to wake through the night and just realizing that wasn't serving both of us well, we decided to night wean. So let's now talk about why you might want to night wean. If your baby's at the developmentally appropriate age to sleep through the night, which they say is a 6 to 8 hour stretch, without being hungry, but they're still waking more frequently, you might be ready to night wean. It's important to know the difference between their emotional needs and their physical needs. Do they both need to be met? Yes. But the physical need of hunger is totally appropriate younger than 9 months. Like they're going to be waking every couple hours for that. When you get into older than that, where they're actually full and not needing food in the middle of the night, they're needing nursing now for an emotional need, which is okay. And it's perfectly normal. There is such a great thing for you to be able to be that one to meet your child's needs and comfort them. But it is going to be hard if you were like me and having to wake frequently, and it may not be serving your child best because they may not be getting the best sleep. They're now waking out of habit rather than out of hunger. And again, this is family to family. It's totally your call. If it's working for you and that habit is not a problem, if co-sleeping is working for you and nursing is working, keep on going however long you feel comfortable with. There's great benefits to them getting that milk after 12 months, but for us, it just was no longer working. We tried and tried, and I had a hard time. I kind of had to grieve it a little bit and just like cried and said, I'm going to miss this, but I'm not liking it at all anymore. And I'm going to miss this, but my baby is not sleeping the best with me anymore. I want to just snuggle her and I want to provide her comfort for her emotional needs, but it's just not what's best for her anymore. So I had to kind of grieve that and move on to this next stage. And this next stage has honestly been so sweet. Now that we got over the hump of night weaning, she actually comes to me for snuggles instead of just nursing through the night. So that's been nice. All right. So you might want to night wean if you're in that situation where you are just tired and you're just not feeling like this is working for you anymore. You're feeling an aversion from it. Your toddler or baby is waking so frequently that it's disrupting their sleep now. So those are my reasons of why you might want to. There might be plenty other reasons. I would love to hear from other moms out there and understand what your situation is. Why did you come to a crossroads of, do I night wean? Do I not night wean? If you're somebody who you never had to look into night weaning and it just naturally happened, that's awesome. And I'm so envious, but I'm so happy for you. All right, that's going to be the wrap of this part 1 episode. I hope that I explained it well enough. I know I kind of go on rants with my own personal experience, but I just find it important so that if anybody can say, oh my goodness, we're going through that too, and explaining myself as to why I choose certain things that I do. Yeah, anyways, I hope that's helpful. If you are interested in how to successfully night wean, check out my next episode. This is going to be part 2, and stay tuned.